COVID-19 covers the whole world, including refugees, that there are more than 70 million people. It's bigger than the UK, I think, right? 70 million is bigger than the UK, right? So you're talking about a country of people who are displaced with no home, very risky for their health, because sometimes no insurance, healthcare is not very strong in many countries they are in. 85% of those refugees are in countries where you don't have a very strong healthcare system. So that's for the hosting community and for them as well. So they are part of the story, we wish it or not.
And yeah, it's true. I mean, like, you think about the vulnerability that they have. They're already vulnerable because they're refugees, and then they're additionally vulnerable given COVID. I mean, I don't know what the percentage is that don't have access to running water. I mean, we think that hand washing is the best preventative measure. If there's no soap or access to running water, or access to running water is so far that you have to get out of self-isolation, it becomes a challenge.
True. No, definitely, that's the basics, of course. And then you go to the health system, Nadia, and then what you suffer from, like, mentally, is that what you see is that the system, the health system, because you don't have enough money, you need to prioritize. You don't prioritize the cancer, sometimes the cancer situation, because you have children who are very sick now, and you need to take care of them. So the system is I mean, we are doing our best. Our partners on the ground are doing their best, but vulnerability for refugees is very high, because not every country is the same. First, most of the refugees are not in camps. It's a myth, actually. Most of the refugees are in urban situations, so they have to pay rent, they have to go to school, and most of the time they have to pay for it. They have health insurance issues, and they usually they are not allowed to work, and some of them, they take cash assistance, but a very small amount that they to just to survive. So it's a problem within a country that they already have a problem. So I'll talk about my country, Lebanon, right? Very economically, we all know, it's not a secret, very challenging. We've been through turmoils in the last year. We're at a certain point, we were the biggest host of refugees in proportion of the size of the country. But then it's very challenging for the community and for the government, we have to admit, to take care of everyone, including the refugees. So first thing we do as UNHCR is offer help to the government and work with them and make sure refugees are included. And I have to say, Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq, even Iraq with all its problems, Egypt, we're all very generous as a community, as families, as a government. It's not Europe, and the conflict is happening there, and first refugees leave to these countries. So our mandate as well is work with host communities who are mostly non-rich countries to make sure refugees are included and to help the host communities at the same time. And now you have an emergency within the emergency, which is the COVID-19, unfortunately.
Now, Houssam, on the point of COVID, right, and the point of private sector partnerships, I'm interested to know kind of the impact it's had on the commitments that private sector kind of companies might have, made, pre-COVID. I know, us at DUCKLIFE, we have a business model that we're quite committed to, right? So in the terms that we actually believe that if we create any shareholder value, then an equal, value needs to be distributed to a cause that we hold dear. And we have a strategic partnership with you guys, and that cause today is refugees. And I got to say, and I have to admit that in these times, it has been actually quite challenging for us, an organization that is so committed to the United Nations High Commission to Refugees. It has actually had an impact on the scale of our commitments, right? So of course, as COVID is impacting all industries and all companies and all revenues and is making things economically tighter for everyone, even us, an organization that is super committed, that has it, built into their business model, we have had to reduce, obviously, because everything else has been reduced. So, as our revenue kind of gets impacted, as our costs need to be tightened, and as our shareholder value goes down based on the situation, so does our commitment and ability to continue the same, I would say, frequency and size of the commitments have, I know me and Nadia, for example, 2 weeks ago, we had to make our quarterly kind of donation commitment. And we looked at our P&L and we did, proportionally what we could, but it's definitely lower than it was the quarter before. So how is that really impacting you guys? And how does that in turn impact the operations on the ground?
It's very challenging. I mean, and thank you for mentioning that, because, okay, so first of all, I'm an optimist. Otherwise, I wouldn't be a fundraiser, because you have to meet your target anyway.
Sure.
So, and that's, the business model we have, and it's a return on investment. We follow a business model that is very close to the business world. Saying that, with the COVID situation, nobody planned for it, right? I'm sure you guys didn't really, you were not super smart and planned for COVID-19, no? And nobody did, right? And so, like everyone, we were surprised, and the first reaction was, okay, how this will gonna affect the refugees? And then you started having this revised budget coming to us, as we try to help in raising this budget, because countries where we have refugees, you need to raise awareness about COVID-19. You have to precautiously do some work, including isolation places in case there is a breakout, so you can put the infected people in that section. And then you need to do testing, and you need to support the government for the host communities, because you have poverty line as well, which is very, in Yemen and Syria alone, it's around poverty line at between 75 to 90% of under poverty line. It's very, 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 very challenging. So with all of that, you need to revise your budget to do the extra activities, and you have your lifeline activities, from cash assistance to healthcare to education, etc., plus education. And so you need to add this to that. So it's so challenging, and it was a shock, and we were trying to deal with it. And the light at the end of the tunnel, I think, it's not enough, but we saw online, and this is the first year before Ramadan, we see people giving more before Ramadan. So usually it goes down, and then it goes up again in Ramadan. It comes to individual giving, like you guys and I. But then this year it's up. It's going well, and we see people who we thought they would not, they will, even though they are not giving big the amounts, but they are giving. I think the commitment is there, as you said, Chris, like yourself. But then the strategy now that we're following is broaden your friendship in this time. Make sure you build even you broaden your network, you strengthen your network, because good days will come back. And then people gives more even in challenging time, those who can, right? Those who can afford it. So what we're trying to do now is not being more aggressive, but go more provide solutions through companies, whether airlines, whether e-learning platforms, whether finding a way for someone to contribute to help in this pandemic situation. And again, I'm very optimistic. And now Ramadan is in the door, and I'll be happy to report back to you guys after Ramadan. Again, I'm really optimistic, even though it seems dark somewhere, but good things can happen, definitely.
That's fantastic.